Thank you very much. Please help me welcome choreographer and filmmaker Heidi. The dancers are catching their breath. First of all, congratulations. This is phenomenal work, Heidi. I would start by asking, how did this film came about, your experience of becoming a filmmaker, and how was it different for you, the whole process?
Is this on? Yes. Okay. Well, I was invited to make a film at Montclair State University. They had received a Mellon grant to invite 3 choreographers over a period of 3 years, and I happened to be the first one that Jed Wheeler invited, which was such an honor. You know, interestingly, it was not as daunting as I thought, because I love film, and I also I had a pretty good idea of the kind of film I wanted to make, and I started actually doing a lot of research about dance films, and I realized that I was not interested in watching choreography in a film, so I thought I would like to make the film the choreography. So I was looking at a lot of images and thinking about images. I also started thinking about what you don't see on stage. Usually is you don't see people's faces. You don't necessarily see like the minutia of what goes on in somebody's eyes or in somebody's face or in somebody's hand. And so I started compiling these images, and of course I was being groomed to do this, so they kept saying to me, you need a storyboard. And I don't have a storyboard. I've never worked. I'm an abstract artist, so I kept fighting them and saying, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to have a story, and I tried to make a narrative, and then I finally said, I can't. So we just storyboarded each of the characters, and then my cinematographer said, take the footage and play with it by yourself. I used iMovie, and that's how this film became something. Then, of course, I worked with an editor to make it more polished.
Well, meanwhile, the beautiful dancers have joined us, Jerome Herman and Einish Madden. Thank you so much.
Meredith had to leave. Her son was here. I don't know if you heard him crying. So I asked her, has he ever seen you perform? And he hasn't. So this was his first. So she had to leave.
Maybe the dancers would like to reflect on their experience working on this film.
Oh, wait, me? Hello? Hi. I've been working with Heidi for 4 years now, and how we usually worked was kind of in deference to how I move, and my physicality. I have cerebral palsy, and so the mechanisms of my body, especially my left side, differ and make really great effects, so just give me different abilities. But in this piece, it was a stretch, a very big stretch, to learn an objective form of movement in terms of learning how, or incorporating how Einish moves in the piece. Is that what you wanted to hear?
I wanted to hear about the film.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, both.
Sorry.
That's good.
Right, okay, the film. Let's go back to the film. That was over a course of a year. We were at MSU, and the film was in line with a lot of your movement because, in your pieces, because they accentuate the individual, and and what we found really compelling, at least what I found really compelling, is the moments when you'll see arms and not really know where they're associated to or with, and seeing those in conjunction with other arms, and so or other head moves, and especially like this one where I'm going backwards and Jillian's going backwards, and we kind of meet in the middle, which gives an equality of movement and equality of kind of the space. And we talked a lot about negative space and what we feel and what is still on the edges of the screen. And so I really love the film because it lets the individual kind of eat up the space, eat up the negative space, and yeah, it was I found it a gift because now we just have another way. Heidi Lastsky dance is another way to distribute its message, its viewpoint, and it's an artful film.
Nice. So we do have another dancer who is in the film. Rob, you want to stand up? Hey, Rob. So what's interesting about my relationship with Rob and showing it here is that Rob was really my inspiration for If, which is a piece that we did here at the JCC in 2010. And he was an inspiration for this film as well as Jerron. And it's true, there was a lot, we wanted to play with negative space. There's a lot that I was playing with. And there was a lot of stuff that happened in making this film. You know, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, the beauty of making a film is that all your dancers are in your computer, and so you don't have to rehearse, and you don't have to worry about payment, and you can work at crazy hours, but there are producers, and there's editors, and there's music, and there's all kinds of imposing factors that you know, how much footage did you actually get that's usable, and how much time did we have to actually accomplish what we set out to accomplish? And I was really lucky to have a team that really supported what we were doing, what I was doing, and understood film, I think, better, like the process of making a film, better than I did, clearly, so they could guide me. And also a producer who really believed and let me make something, I think, unusual. He actually said, "This is the first dance film I've ever seen without feet. There are no feet in this film." There are a few, right?
Anyone has questions for Heidi and the dancers? We're happy to take them. Right here.
Heidi, how difficult is it to find dancers with disabilities to include in your company?
Well, over the years it's been difficult. We're trying to rectify that. But we're also, like right now we're building our roster for On Display, which is our global initiative. And so we're starting to reach out to all different, I mean, you've helped me. This is Commissioner Khaleesi, and he really helped me a lot when I wanted wheelchair athletes. We've put ads in places like years ago, but I'm still trying to figure that out. I could use help. Yeah.
So I have a comment more than a question, but coming as a physical therapist, I have to say we have something that we call forced use or constraint-induced therapy, just making people, we're trying to have people use the muscles that are weak to improve their strength, their balance, their range of motion. But looking at your performers, your dancers, it's amazing to me that this is the epitome of forced use. I mean, they're using everything they have available. And, you know, when you see somebody who has a physical disability that's apparent, you know, you have no idea what they are capable of if you just see them sitting or standing. But once you see this, it just magnifies what people can do. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. So the two pieces that you saw, I'll just interject for a second, have never been performed. They're still works in progress, and they're part of a piece that I'm making called Time Stamped, which we're hoping to do at the High Line in 2017 during Disability Pride Month. And the idea is that On Display that we've been performing is an endurance test of stillness and quiet. And then these pieces are the endurance, feats of endurance. So right now we have, these two are part of that aspect of, what did you call it?
Forced use.
Forced use.
Yeah, it was forced use, sorry.
Hi, thank you so much for the film and the performances that were really wonderful. In the film, it looked like you had a strategy of taking time to reveal the embodied differences of the performers, but established a lot of connection with each of them first, just because, I mean, partly because of the use of the faces and the emotion that we can get that's harder to see at a distance during a dance performance. So I was just wondering if that was correct and sort of how you were thinking about that. I mean, I thought it was a fantastic strategy of just like engaging people with that, and then you start to see the differences start to scan really differently when you've already started to engage with the characters instead of just saying, oh, look, it's, I mean, I think it really asks the audience to do different kinds of work.
So you're correct. And then, like, one of the things that was inspiring me for this film is a piece that I did at Joe's Pub, which is very frenetic. And when I saw the documentation of it, I kept going in and out of the light, so like you would see a part of my body, but then and it would go away and it would come back. And I kept, it was another argument I had with my creative team. I kept saying, I want like nothing on the screen, and then all of a sudden an arm comes through and you're not really sure what it is, and you're like, you can't do that. And did you see The Big Short? Has anybody who's seen The Big Short? There's actually black screen, and I was like, yes, I did that, or I wanted to do that. And the slow reveal, I did want a slow reveal, and I wanted, it's so hard to talk about. It's very hard to talk about. I cry every time I see this film, but there was so much in this film for me, and I wanted it to really embrace the fierceness and the vulnerability of the people I've worked with, and what I love to see. And so it's hard for me to even articulate. But yes, that was one of the things, and the sense of mystery, and that, do you know what that image at the beginning of the film is actually my hand? And because Rob did this movement that I thought was so beautiful, where his hand just kind of floated down, and I thought, well, what would it be like? And so I did it, and he did it, and who knew what that meant? And then when I had Jen Bricker in this beautiful white fabric, but then what did that mean? Afterwards, I didn't want it to seem like, oh, here she is, flying. I was trying to reveal who she was as a person, but she's flying. That's like a trick. And I didn't, so then the fabric had to have also a life. So there was, but yeah, the slow reveal was something I really wanted to work with. Any other questions?
Right there.
And there's somebody over there.
Okay, we'll take that. This one, then last question.
So a question about Soliloquy. I was wondering if the music was actually composed before and played on set, or if it was composed after the film was already edited. So I'm wondering how that kind of factored in, because it really adds a lot to the film.
That's a great question. So Chris Brierly is a composer I've worked with for over 10 years. He lives in London, and that's significant because we've never worked together in the same city. I had a piece of his music that I thought this film was going to be made to, and we even listened to it while we were filming, and then it didn't work. And so I edited the film in silence, and then when I worked with my editor, we specifically thought, maybe we'll just make this a silent film. And so we edited it. Again, we kept editing in silence, and then we started playing with inner turmoil, right? Inner tension. What would that be? So bringing in this kind of rumbling sound that almost sounds like it turns into a fire. And then Chris, I kept asking him to deconstruct the music that he had created already, that one piece that we were going to use. And it became a very trying process. So it all came after the film was edited, and then it was a lot of back and forth. It's a very sensitive score, so unfortunately technicians have to kind of boost the volume all the way up in the beginning, because it's not silent in the beginning. There's like a wind sound, and then it gets really, really, really loud. So when you have a really, really great system, like even here, you could feel the rumbling, which is what we wanted, for the audience to feel it. But did you like it? He's a composer. You did? Yeah, I think we made the right choice. We almost went with silence. I think that would have been hard.
With another question right there.
Heidi, the film is dedicated to Lisa Bufano. Who, can you tell us who Lisa Bufano was and what she contributed to your vision?
So, Jeremy Alliger, who produced, actually this is before GIMP, a friend of mine in Boston, who was a big presenter for many years, met Lisa Bufano, who is a visual artist. She actually passed away a few years ago. She was a visual artist who received a grant to come to New York and make a performance solo, and she was very interested. She's a bilateral amputee, and she wanted a choreographer to work with all her prosthetics. So she had all kinds of prosthetics. She had stilts and those running legs, and she came to New York, and I agreed to work with her. And one day the second day that I was working with her, I walked into the studio and she was moving around the space without her prosthetics, and she was so beautiful. And I kind of fell in love with her at that moment, and I ended up making her a 25-minute solo. We used her prosthetics only for one section. And she became my muse, and I realized working with her that she held that fierceness and vulnerability that I was looking for in all my dancers, and started to look for it even more. And it's because of her that the GIMP project started. So after working with Lisa, I started thinking, wow, could I do this again? And so I asked Lawrence Carter-Long, who also has cerebral palsy, who I met through Lisa, to come into rehearsal, and that's how, and this was in 2006. And so I've been doing this physically integrated work since then because of her. And that's why I did it. I tried to get her footage in the film, and it didn't work.
We have time for one last question.
Yeah, I have a question for the dancers, and maybe the gentleman on the right could answer first. When you were preparing for this piece, did you ever feel like you were going to fail? And if you did, how did you get through that and get to this stage today?
Yes, and I think a lot of time I feel like I'm failing, and I think that's a good thing. I think failure is what drives me, and I think most of us who are having some forced use to keep forcing their use. So I think the piece was really sobering for me because it dropped off a safety net. I think I just subconsciously accrued because by being with this company, and kind of I don't know. So in making this piece, I felt a greater obligation to my partner. Not differently from the other partners I've worked with, but just in a different sense that if I had a misstep, you know, it would just read differently, and kind of got injured during the creation of the piece too. So like that really kind of shook me as well, because I think there's just I'm still going through a lot of body identity and understanding and wanting to project something quite capable. So when you are put up against like a wall physically, it really demoralized me because I just want to go, you know, but my body sometimes won't let me. So in that sense, I felt a bit of failure and a bit of oh, that's a thing. You know, I'm kind of spreading myself now a little bit differently in the dance field, and so I have to be very conscious of that as I go forward.
I just want to say that watching Jerome go through this, I say, welcome to the dance world. I mean, I've been injured most of my career, and it's part of the process, and you have to buy into that because there's no way around it. There's just no way around it. And part of like working with the sense of, am I going to fail? It's like every time I go on stage, there's that part of me that's like, am I going to be able to get through this? Is it going to be effectual? And especially just even your body. Is your body going to get through this? Did your body get through it?
I got through it.
Good. We had one question right in the middle. Can we just do that?
Heidi and dancers, have you ever had autistic dancers in your team?
In the troupe, like in the dance company? No.
Oh.
No. So this is the thing. A lot of my work takes incredible time, focus, stillness, and I think that what we also decided to do, this is my limitation as a choreographer, is I decided way back when that in order for the GIP project to make sense, the disability had to be physical and clear. Because otherwise, I wasn't sure if people were, is it going to visually represent what we're trying to do, which is about diversity and inclusion. Now, there are some pieces now where I think I can be more open about maybe open it up to a different population right now, because it's not just about physical differences. Well, no, that's not true. It is about physical differences, but all kinds of differences. Am I making sense? So it's finding the right situation. It's also asking myself as a choreographer, what is my intention and how can I get that vision out to the audience? Does that make sense? We can talk about it. Can we talk about it?
Sure we will.
Okay, good.
On that note, thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you.
You're welcome to speak.